Yep.
And this is Ken Kraetzer for Cadets Media. We cover cadets, midship, and the military and veterans proudly since 2008. Another edition of our Army Football Huddle. Very happy, excited evening as we can discuss Army's win 2017 at the Air Force Academy. Such an important win. And this week, a sellout crowd at Mikey Stadium for Army hosting Temple. And it's going to be a great, exciting day. Looking forward to it. So let's introduce our players in the huddle tonight. We have Curtis Harris. Curtis, how are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me, Ken, as always.
Absolutely. And from South Jersey, we have Steve Chaloult. Steve, how are you?
Dan, good evening. How are you?
Good, good. And we have Richard Miller from Florida. How are you, Richard?
Very, very well, Ken. A good win for me.
Absolutely. And on Long Island, we have Chuck Donegan. Chuck, how are you?
I'm good, Ken, though my nerves are still recovering after that close win Saturday.
Yeah, and you weren't on the field. You weren't in the 20-degree temperatures.
Yeah, I'm sure that must have been that much more intense under those circumstances.
Okay, and from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama, we have Colonel Sam Houston. Colonel, how are you?
Excellent, Ken. The Silver Star has been secured. Next comes the Gold Star.
Okay, yeah, and getting us on the air from Minnesota is our friend Stephanie. Stephanie, how are you?
Doing pretty good.
Oh, you're always very good, Stephanie. You're better than pretty good.
I'm trying.
Okay, we appreciate your help. I know it's not easy, especially working with this group. Okay. As we said, terrific win Saturday in Colorado Springs for Army 2017. And as Coach Munkin said after the game, they had them all the way. Oh, yeah, right. Air Force got out to an early lead on a 52-yard field goal. And then Army came back with a good drive with the touchdown on that one. It was Briggs Bartosh, 35-yard run, and then a 40-yard pass from Cale Helms to Noah Short to get Army out ahead. And Dawson Jones got the PAT. And then Dawson Jones later at the end of the second quarter got a 44-yard field goal, the first of his two on the day. He seemed to kick all his field goals at the end of each half of regulation, and so important that he did. Gavin Shields, important interception early in the third quarter, stopped a drive at the Army 12. And then Air Force did a 12-play, 65-yard drive. Liam Zarka scored on that one. But then Army scored, went the length of the field, and scored on a Cale Helms 10-yard touchdown run. And then it got interesting. Army gets an interception to stop to stop Air Force drive, and then later you got the Cole Seawright play, and stopped a drive, and they got a fumble recovery by Army that set things up. But let's get everybody in. I get a few more comments. Sam, why don't you tell us what was your view of the game from down in Huntsville?
Yeah, this was one of those games where it was obvious, for one thing, they were playing in Colorado Springs because the balls were sailing. That long field goal, every kickoff that I saw from both teams went out of the end zone. And it also affected the passing game early as a couple of the early passes by Army where they sailed just a little bit, but they adjusted accordingly. But this was really a classic CIC trophy game played by Army in that the defense bent a lot, especially in the second half, but didn't break. And the offense did just enough to win, but it was accentuated by the fact that with 124 or so, 120 on the clock, once again, Cale Helms directed a last 2-minute drive for a score. Most of his drives have happened in the first half in the last 2 minutes of the game. But in this case, in the last 2 minutes of the game, drove absolutely a brilliant drive that connected with Brady Anderson after I think it was 6 runs that got him to about the 50-yard line. And then he connected on a 42-yard pass to Brady Anderson that put him in field goal range. And of course, the rest is history. Dawson Jones kicked the kick. The game was over. The star belonged to Army. I'm not going to say that it was a perfect win. It wasn't, although it's always perfect to beat the other service academies. The game itself had a lot of moments in it that had you second guessing, from the stands. And this is why we're not coaches. I think one of the big question marks that a lot of people had, especially down in Huntsville, was after the Cole Seawright sack that caused the fumble that Army recovered. It appeared that Army was now in position to be able to get a first down and then run the clock out. And that obviously was the strategy. But when it became 4th and 2, there were a lot of people who were questioning the call 4th and 2 to go for it, especially that deep in your own territory. And, again, I was one of the people who appreciated Monken's aggressiveness in this case. And what I mean by that is that, as he said in his press conference, the intent was if we get the first down, we're going to run the clock out and the game's over. So he looked at it as this is where we win the ball game. We're going to win it right here and now. And for everyone who was watching the game that might still be sitting around second guessing Monken's call on that play of going for it, I'm here to tell you the blocking was there. The only reason that play failed was because that 5th-year Stone Cold Steve Austin looking dude that played for Air Force Academy made an absolutely miracle play to barely catch Helms' ankle with his hand that tripped him up. Otherwise, Helms was going to be running for a long time on that play. So you got to hand it to, and I know Monken said the same thing, was that the kid made a hell of a play. And I called him 5th-year Stone Cold Steve Austin because when he took his helmet off, the guy looked like he was about 35 and he was bald. And he looked kind of like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it was a miracle play.
That was 96, Peyton Zudroid.
Yeah, that guy. So
Cody Worley was talking about him tonight in our interview.
Yeah, but minus that play, I'm telling you, that play worked. Minus that one guy making a miracle play on that particular set of downs. Of course, Air Force took the short yardage. They took advantage of it. They punched it in. They tied the score back up. It looked like all of the momentum was back on the side of the Zoomies. And you know what? Monken philosophy of don't flinch came into play. That drive that the offense managed to accomplish with that short of amount of time and a couple of timeouts left on their stat sheet was just a testament to the fact that this group of players that we've got right now, they're developing rapidly in front of our eyes. They're maturing rapidly in front of our eyes, and they have a lot of confidence coming out of this game that we were worried that possibly they had lost after the Tulane game. So great win, and now it's on to Temple.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Let's hear from Steve Chaloult. What was your view on the game?
It was a very hard-fought game, and I kept going back to these were the games that we used to lose. And we seem to have Air Force's number. I mean, Air Force scored. It had been almost 2.5 years since they scored a touchdown on us when they finally scored in the third quarter, I believe. And we just had a confidence that I felt like we had a confidence that we were going to win this ball game right down to the end. And it was going forward on 4th and 2 was 100% a Monken thing to do. And, being up by 7 didn't hurt either. I mean, because you knew that the worst thing could happen, we would go to overtime or get tied up on that. So gutsy move, totally in line with his personality. And we went at it. And we had been, although Air Force had been moving the ball on us in the second half, we still were relatively fortunate in keeping them out of the end zone quite a bit. So I think the odds were with us, and I think it was the right, obviously it was the right call to make at this point in time. But Army again against Air Force, I think we have a little bit of an edge on them mentality wise, and we took home the victory. And I just hope that we can keep that same type of mentality and be on an attack against Navy. We have a kind of a tendency to be on our heels a little bit against Navy, and I just hope we stay on the attack as we go through these last few games that are super important to a successful season. Temple starts this week, and we just got to get on the attack because they're a much, much more improved team.
Yep.
And we've got Temple, can't overlook Tulsa, and then we get UTSA, which is always going to be tough to play them in the Dome on a Thanksgiving weekend in an unfriendly place. So I'm looking forward to watching how this plays out and hopefully getting a bowl bid and then going into Baltimore and reliving breaking that streak the other a few years back.
Yeah, happy memories in Baltimore. And certainly Army now is in a good position for a bowl game, but they have to win 2 out of the last 3 or the next 3. And it certainly would be a big step forward. They can have a successful game against Temple on Saturday.
And that's a good point, Ken. What everybody has to understand is, because of us going to the American Conference and the Navy game being not a part of the American Conference look, and it's technically after the, the bowl selection time frame, that win wouldn't count towards us going to a bowl. So we have to have 6 wins prior to. So we've got to get to that 6-win mark prior to us. And I'm confident that we're going to go into those 3 games probably as favorites unless something weird happens. But we got to produce.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is. Saturday, sellout crowd, and the team has turned the corner after the Air Force game. Got a chance to watch a little bit of practice today and talk to Austin Jones and Colin Madison, and they are set for getting set for Saturday. And one thing you realize about West Point, no matter what the game was on Saturday, they got to be ready for class on Monday morning, and that's what West Point is about. Okay, let's hear from Curtis Harris. Curtis.
Sorry, I was on mute for a second. So in regards to the Army Air Force game, I mean, there was it wasn't the cleanest game. And I'm going to be frank. I mean, I don't mean to be tough on the players, but you look at it offensively. I believe, technically speaking, Air Force beat us out in terms of yards gained. I think they had around 375 yards gained. And a lot of that was through passing through their quarterback. They had those, sometimes short passes. You can call it 8 to 15 yards every here and there, but our offense wasn't clicking as much as I would have hoped to have them, succeed in the Air Force game. Obviously, it turned in our favor. We were very efficient when it came to getting the ball down the field and putting us in positions to, either make a field goal or to even score a touchdown. But I don't want to repeat something that someone else has already stated, and I agree with the things that that Sam and Steve had already mentioned. But I guess the biggest thing right now, I was just looking at the projections. It seems as if when it comes to the Armed Forces Bowl, which we have a tie-in to, as you mentioned, Ken, we have to win the next 2 out of the 3 games, not including the Navy game. We're expected to play Baylor or Houston, and I think that would be a tremendous game if we're able to get to that level. And obviously, it's 1 game at a time. We have to, take on Temple and really get at least 2 wins out of this upcoming schedule.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it all starts on Saturday here at Mikey Stadium, and hopefully win those two. I feel like we've been on the road a lot this year. It's one of those seasons where they have 6 fly-to road games.
yeah, I
And
noticed that before the season. Yeah, go ahead.
and I've been on the road for each one of those, and there's a lot of flights and car rentals and driving, but we got there. Um, okay, and by the way, I got to Fort Carson on Saturday. I got some pictures of that one, the home of the 4th Infantry Division. That was neat to see.
Very
Okay,
cool.
let's hear from Chuck Donegan. Chuck, what did you think?
Well, Canada was definitely quite a victory, real nail biter, I'll tell you that. Seemed like even after Army successfully rallied, the Falcons were just constantly nipping at their heels all the way through. Certainly a good day for Cale Helms, I'll tell you that. With 98 yards across 26 carries, 5 for 9 in passing, and Colin Mattison had a good day as well. Career high in tackles, 10 solo and 11 in total. And quite a few interesting facts here. This actually marks Army's 7th victory out of their last 9 over Air Force. And this is the 3rd straight season they have defeated the Air Force since the late 70s. And it's their 2nd consecutive victory over Air Force, the Falcons' home state of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's what sticks out. That's a good point, Chuck. Army's won 7 of the last 9. And I said to one of the players today, you know, I started covering Army football 17 or so years ago. Air Force was dominating the rivalry, and they were kind of arrogant about it too.
Oh yeah, they still are.
Yeah.
And I do remember the years Trent Steelman's team beat Air Force,
Yeah,
and
Trent
that was a
Steelman.
neat win. But then, you know, going out there and winning the 21-0, what was that, 2018?
2017.
2017,
2017.
yeah.
That was with Ahmad Bradshaw.
Yeah, that was such a turnaround game, you know, in the rivalry. And now Army's dominating 7 out of 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's hear from, thank you, Chuck. Let's hear from Richard. What did you think of the game?
Oh, what I thought of the game, definitely another, close game, a game that I think that Army, got was again they escaping with a win over Air Force. I also looked at again a couple of the things on the third down efficiency. 5 of 13. Air Force did outconvert them on the third down, and also in terms of total yards, they were also outgaining them 335 to 295. But at least I think Army getting a couple of stops late and keeping the game close and helped them setting them up for the win really is one of the key wins of the season, and really is putting them now into a position with the last couple of games where they need to get. You need 6 wins to be bowl eligible. They've got 4, so they've got now two more wins to get. This one coming up, and then one more down the road. But I think obviously a gut check, when the mistakes that Sam talked about, they've got to clean up. If they don't clean it up, some of these next couple of games, they're going to be a real challenge.
Okay, Richard, thank you. You know, the thing that's struck me and Coach Troy Chaloult of Air Force, I think it was his first comment in the post game, was that interceptions, the 2 turnovers, made a huge difference. As did the sack, as mentioned in the game by Colt Seawright. But the 2 interceptions by Casey Larkin, and then later by you had the whereas the other interception was by Gavin Shields. Defense 3 times got the ball back for the offense, and that made a huge difference. And Army avoided any turnovers efficiently. Ran and then got the 2 scoring drives and the 2 field goals. Coach Munkin said, the thing is they punted well. Wagenseller punted well in the game. He 46.5 average on 4 punts. I think I would have been more comfortable if Wagenseller had been given the ball to punt on that 4th down. But Coach Monken's been a two-time national champion, coach of the year, and the strategy won out in the end. Okay, let's hear from Chuck Donegan. What were some of the other outcomes in the American Conference last weekend?
Well, Ken, we had quite a mix. Result was the Temple East Carolina game saw real curb stomp battle that ended in East Carolina's favor, 45-14, while the North Texas Navy game saw a solid North Texas victory, 31-17. Elsewhere, we had the UConn UAB battle end with a 38-19 UConn win. Yeah, it was a good one right there. And other things, we also had Memphis Rice game, another strong victory for Memphis, 38-14.
Very good, thank you, Chuck. And maybe Chuck, come back with the Navy game in a second. Richard, what was your outstanding game in college football last week?
Well, let's see. My outstanding game in college football from last week was my outstanding game from last week was eventually. From last week was that would be the NC State number 8 Georgia Tech 48-36. NC State defeats Georgia Tech. Also, a couple of other games. Number 20 Texas defeated Vanderbilt 34-31. Texas is number 20 in the country. Vanderbilt is number 9 in the country. SMU took down number 10 Miami 26-20 in overtime.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Richard. Okay. We talked a little bit to Coach Monken after practice today, and he said they turned the corner after enjoying the flight home from Colorado on Saturday, had practice on Sunday, and they were back out there today. And very high energy practice, and their season now has got 2 of the 3 major objectives to play for the Commander-in-Chief Trophy against Navy in December, and then to play for a bowl game, which they can achieve by winning 2 games out of the next 3. So a lot for them to play for. They've got a quarterback in Cale Helms who's now stepped up and has led them to important wins. And the defense is getting better. What I kind of thought was that the defense was putting pressure on Air Force through the game. And you had 6 tackles for loss. You had Andon Thomas, Caleb Fortner each had tackles for loss. Casey Larkin had 1. Jack Bosom, Jack Latour, Gavin Shield, and Cole Seawright. And that seemed to really throw off the Air Force quarterback. And I think it's a good bearing for the balance of the team. Did anyone else see how the defense is starting to mature?
Well, yeah, defense has been maturing quite a bit this season since some of the early games. They've been showing a lot of good chemistry together. I do want to point out that one aspect of the defense against Air Force that was a great thing to see, and in my opinion made a difference, was the return of Cody Harris Miller. So Cody Harris Miller has been out since the Tarleton State game, and I've gone back and I've watched Cody Harris Miller from this game this past Saturday, and I'm telling you, he makes a big difference on the inside, bottling up blockers, because it frees the linebackers up. And Caleb Fortner, Andon Thomas, they were making hits behind the line of scrimmage because they didn't have any blockers at the second level, because people like Cody Harris Miller were keeping them tied down. Another thing is that there is no doubt that Nate Woody has got Air Force's number. If you look at the last 3 wins against Air Force, Army has forced, I believe, 11 turnovers in those 3 games. And Army has committed 0 turnovers in those 3 games. That's a plus 11 turnover ratio. by the same token, over those 3 games, Army's defense against Air Force and those 3 wins has held Air Force to a total of 23 points in 3 games. So, this particular game, yes, Air Force finally got back into the end zone. They dominated almost the entire third quarter on offense, and it was pretty obvious that Army's defense was getting a little smoked there towards the end of the third quarter. But in the end, 17 points is the fewest points that Air Force Academy has scored this entire season. And so it was really a great confidence building outing for the team. It does not help them prepare for Navy because Navy runs a different offense these days, as we've discussed before, and we'll talk about Navy when it's that time. Now they got to get ready for Temple. But yeah, the defense itself has gone great strides in their play, and it started at the UAB game and has continued. And yes, we did not emerge victorious in the Tulane game, but for, let's say, 58 minutes out of 60, all of those minutes the defense weren't on the field. But for almost the entire game, when the defense was on the field, they were stymieing Tulane pretty good. So I'm feeling really good about what Nate Woody has been able to do with his players. I'm glad to see people like Cody Harris-Miller getting healthy and being back on the field. And I think that the defense is starting to peak production at the right time.
And Coach Wonka complimented Cody Harris-Miller in my post practice talk by saying that Cody had played 54 plays in the game, which is a lot for some. He said for somebody who's coming back from an injury to that he was able to get back from the injury, play and contribute and really hold for 54 plays. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about Saturday. Temple in the conference, 5-4 on the season, a big improvement for them. But they're another team. I remember in the early days of my coverage of Army football, Temple coming in with a big running game. But times have changed. They've had a lot of coaching changes. They're still trying to get a new stadium at Temple. I don't know if that's going to happen. They play at the Link. Let's see, who would like to provide a rundown on Temple?
Go, Steve.
Temple, much improved team. They are, they could be bowl eligible with a victory over Army, and that is not something that you hear in the same sentence as Temple Owls. They've utilized the transfer portal. They got 5 starters on defense that are portal. They came from the portal. So they're a little bit older on defense. This is a time of the year that they're going to start gelling together. Early portal teams are sometimes a little disjointed. Now they've had a lot of experience together. So that's a bonus for Temple, but they haven't really faced an offense like Army enough for them to, attack what we can do. So I'm excited about our ability. They're big up front, so we're about evenly matched size wise. They're 300 at the tackle, 310 at the nose guard, and 280 on the outside. So we're going to have to get some push off the ball, and we're going to have to mix up, I think, a little bit on how our offense goes. We've been sprinkling in the pass a little bit more here recently, and I think we should continue to do that in an opportunistic way. I'm not a big fan of the first down 10-yard curls, but I am a fan of the 2nd and 2 faked option and a post pattern from the backside where we have the angle on the ball and everybody's crashing the lane to stop that option and all of a sudden we're from behind them. Like, it came out with a little trickery against Air Force with that formation and caught them behind with short. I don't think we need to go trickery here because Temple hasn't seen us as much as Air Force has practiced against their own people. So I think, again, time of possession, line of scrimmage, and getting ahead of the chains, or what I say, stay on schedule, is going to be super important. This is the time of year where the weather, the wind, the cooler weather, it lends itself to teams that like to attack the point of attack and line of scrimmage, and can run the ball. So these next couple of games against Tulsa, I wouldn't be surprised if a later November game is windy and blustery with cloudy and showers or whatever else it is. We're just going to need to continue to attack, time of possession, uh, dent that defense, and continue to run the ball down and wear them out and make them frustrated, so that their quarterback makes a mistake late in the game. We get a turnover or two, and we capitalize on them. We come out with a victory. I think we are more than capable of being victorious in this game. I expect that we will be, and I think this senior leadership on this team is right where Coach Monken would want them to be, and so they are focused. They run hard. They play hard. And I expect a hard-fought victory by Temple against Temple this week.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Hey, by the way, I got to mention when we were talking with Cody Worley, the offensive coordinator tonight, he was out. He got a question about his new formation called the polecat. Polecat. And I had not heard about it. He said it was something that he was aware of from his high school days, but he wanted to show a new formation to Air Force, even if they ran a similar play. They wanted to show, as he said, a different wrinkle. Did anyone catch that? He said they used it twice in the game.
Well, yeah, they did. The first touchdown to Noah Short was from the polecat. And it was, when we were watching the game, we were like, check this out. This is something we've never seen before. And it was very obvious that in the game of chess, that preparing a strategy for a football game involves, that Air Force clearly had no idea what was going on. And they tried to defend it as best they saw fit, but they had definitely not prepared for it. More importantly, if you go back and watch the play where Helms connected with Short out of that formation, watch the blocking on the inside. It's brilliant. I mean, it is brilliant. And unfortunately, the second time they lined up the polecat, which was it was after the interception late in the first half. Army's marching from a short field, and I think it was on second or third down. They were in the same formation, and Helms didn't find an open man and took off and actually darted around left on a scramble and got inside the 10-yard line. But then you saw the danger of a formation like that, because the play was called back on a illegal formation penalty because of number of men on the line of scrimmage. So, there's a roll the dice with that play. So, but the thing is that the play worked. Both times they lined up in that formation, the play worked, and Air Force was not ready to defend it. And the only reason that the play did not stand a second time was because of an Army penalty. It might have led to a touchdown at the end of the first half that would have made it 14-3 at the half. So good job by Worley by putting something together that we knew that Air Force had never seen.
The other thing Cody Worley said was that at halftime he challenged Cale Hellam to try to raise his game. He felt that they should have been up 17-3 at the half, and Cale took that well and performed well in the second half. But again, we saw Cale Helms is growing, and the leadership, and it was amazing. I was standing on about the 10-yard line because I sensed that Army was going to be threatening to try to score or get a field goal attempt in at the end of the fourth quarter. So I was standing down on about the 10-yard line and saw that ball up in the air. What a nice spiral that was that Cale Hellam threw it. I think it was 45 yards in the air, and Brady Anderson just settled under it, had a step on on the defender and made an excellent catch, held on to it. So, okay. Any other thoughts about Temple? I just was kind of looking down their stat sheet. They are rushing for 162 yards a game, but they're giving up 192. So you can run on Temple. They have thrown 252 times for 162 completions, 1 interception. They are throwing for 209 yards a game. They're giving up 196, so pretty even. 23 touchdowns. Passing, they've given up 13. And they've scored 12 rushing touchdowns. They've given up 20. So teams are rushing against Temple so far this year. They are averaging 5.8 yards a play and giving up 6.0 yards per play. So they're a team that you can run on. So that's what I'm sure there may be a focus. Any other thoughts on Temple?
Yeah, I'll just say something quick and then leave the floor open. As Steve pointed out, this is not the Temple from last season. They've got a new coach and they've benefited from the transfer portal. They've got a senior quarterback named Evan Simons, who has been playing exceedingly well. He had not thrown an interception until this past Saturday when Temple ran up against the buzzsaw that is East Carolina. And on a side note, I'm going to tell you, East Carolina is someone that no one in the AAC wants to play right now. They're really hitting on all cylinders. But Temple is much improved, and Temple has not forgotten the drubbing they took at the hands of Army last year. And neither has Temple, at least from a fan base perspective, forgotten the fact that Temple had Army on the ropes back in 2017, had it not been for a miracle Kelvin Hopkins Jr. drive for a touchdown that put it into overtime, that Army came back with a miracle win. And also Temple is motivated by the fact that one more win makes them bowl eligible. And, as Steve said, bowl eligible and Temple Owls are not things that you say in the same sentence normally. So they're going to come to play, and they're going to be looking to amend what happened last Saturday against East Carolina. They got embarrassed, and they don't want to roll into Mikey Stadium and get embarrassed. So I think that they're going to come in full attack mode, especially on offense. They've got some talented receivers. They're going to be throwing the ball deep a lot. They're going to be throwing to the perimeter a lot. I watched a replay of the Navy game. A game that they should have won, by the way. They were a 4th and 1 away from beating Navy late in the game, but they failed on their 4th and 1 defense, unfortunately for Temple. And Navy ended up winning by 1 point. And so they're not going to want to look to be in the same position against Army. So it's a good thing that Army's defense is improving, is gelling, is healthy. They're going to need to put a lot of pressure on Simons, and they're going to need to keep him under duress. They're going to need to stop the run in order to get them off the field. They're going to have to force 3 and outs. But more importantly, the offense is going to just have to keep them off the field with time of possession. And in my opinion, that's the only concern I've got about Army at this precise moment in time in our season. And that is as follows. Army's offense is improving, yes. And Helms is maturing. He's 100% the starting quarterback. There's no doubt about it. The team is blocking a lot better. We've seen the emergence of Briggs Bartosh, for example, only a yearling, and the guys out there are just running like Darnell Wolfolk out there. He looks great. But what the offense is not doing, and they need to in this last stretch, is they need to get more consistent of scoring touchdowns. They have got to finish drives. They've got to cut the 3 and outs. Remember, they started the Air Force game with 2 straight 3 and outs. They've got to stop that. They've got to put consistent long drives where they finish with touchdowns, because they're coming up against some teams that know how to put points on the board. Temple, UTSA, Navy, even Tulsa. at times. These teams know how to score fast and often, and Army's going to have to be ready to put points on the board and keep the other team off the offense. So anyway, Temple's going to be a good test, but I agree with Steve. I think that it's going to be a victory for Army at Mikey on Saturday.
Okay, any other comments on Temple?
No, I think.
Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, I think should be a good battle. I mean, we were actually had the privilege of attending their contest, Temple's home base in Philadelphia last year, right around this time. It's definitely a good one, and I certainly hope Army can pull off another victory like they did the game last year.
Yeah, I still go back to in my early days covering Army football 15 years ago, that Temple would really dominate Army games, really running the ball. But then 2016 happened, and so maybe some of you were there. Opening day down at the link, and there was about 30,000 people there. Temple was coming off a strong season, and Army took them apart.
Yeah, I remember that.
Drive by drive. It was over at the start of the fourth quarter. The fan base was silent except for the Army fans who were there. And that was the Jeff Monken introduction.
That was his third year in. Yeah.
Yeah, third year in, and that's when it started. That's when the turnaround started, and everything became apparent very clearly that opening day 2016 at the link against Temple.
Yep.
But that was, almost.
It was like a Friday night game. It was 28 to 10. It was a great game.
It was a great game. Temple went on to win the AAC that year.
And also, I wanted to say, I guess, as it relates to Temple, I know this is kind of a minor step or a minor statement to mention, but Temple, coming from Temple's perspective, I guess something that they, I guess hope to exploit against us is their ability to cause turnovers. Temple is known for that, and obviously, I guess as other people have mentioned on this in the huddle, that Temple has issues defending the rushing game. So that's obviously something that we can push towards, and we hope to, manage the clock well. But, as it relates to, managing, taking care of the ball, that's something that we should also, look into or have a focus on.
Yeah, for sure. And Coach Monken will say they practice ball control every practice, which isn't fun because it means you got players taking shots at the running backs and the quarterbacks trying to poke the ball away. But another thing Cody Worley said today is noting that 4th and 1 play where the defensive lineman from Air Force was able to lift his line on the ground, and he was able to get his hand on Kel Helm's ankle. Is that they did drills today where they ran over sandbags to practice picking up their feet going through the line. So just another way they're practicing to get better. Okay, let's start to get closer to wrapping up. Richard, you got a game in college football you're going to be watching very carefully this weekend?
A game I will be watching in college football this weekend. That will be college football. Going over to the college football schedule. That is going to be on Saturday. That will end up. That's going to end up being number 4 Alabama 7-1 taking on 5-3 LSU. That is a 7:30 ABC game.
Okay, that'll be one to watch. Okay. Let's go to Chuck. Chuck, do you have the lineup for American Conference games this weekend?
I certainly do, Ken. Got quite a few good matches coming up. Thursday the 6th, 7:30, UTSA takes on South Florida. While Friday the 7th, we have got good game, Tulane versus Memphis. And of course, Saturday at noon, Temple Army, that you and I will be there for to provide the live coverage. And then at 2 p.m. the same afternoon, UAB takes on Rice. And at 3 o'clock, we've got Charlotte, East Carolina. Again, a day you might want to set your DVR for.
Okay, very good. Very good. Any other comments about this upcoming week in college football?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of upsets that are on the horizon that I would keep an eye on. There has been quite a bit of flux within the top 25. Couple games to keep an eye on. Texas A&M, Missouri. I think Missouri is a much improved team. Texas A&M may be overlooking Missouri. I think that is a prime for a good game or an upset. And another game that I would keep an eye on is Penn State in Indiana. Indiana's living a storybook season. They're in the debate of first or second, where they should be. Penn State, let's not forget that they have still the talent that was number one and number two in the country at the beginning of the year. The dust is settled. They're playing for an interim coach, and they only have to play for each other. They could provide Indiana a good game or possibly an upset.
Okay, great, Steve.
Yep. I'd like to add. I'd like to add one other game. Yeah, I'd like to add one other game that will not be an upset, and that is Navy at Notre Dame. Navy, I believe, as of this huddle, is about a 26-point underdog at South Bend. And Navy had their undefeated season come crashing down under a pummeling running game by the UNT freshman running back this past Saturday down in Denton, Texas. And this was just game one of the buzzsaw that Navy is now facing. Notre Dame next, then I believe South Florida, then at Memphis. So it's a tough row of games for Navy to be able to negotiate. And we'll see how they do, but I don't expect there to be any type of an upset in that game. I expect that to probably be pretty close to what the spread is. So Navy just probably should be hoping to stay healthy coming out of that game.
Sam, do you think Navy's going to hold on to be in the American Conference Championship game?
Negative. I think that the two teams that are going to end up, as of right now, I think that the two teams that are going to end up in the American Conference Championship are going to be Memphis and I believe North Texas are going to end up in the conference championship game. And then I would like to add a question to the huddle, just kind of a yes or no kind of a question, and it is follows, and that is Troy Calhoun. Is he in trouble or no?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people, I know the fans don't really matter as it relates to the coach's job at Air Force, but a lot of the fans and alumni from Air Force were calling for Coach Calhoun's firing after Army's win over Air Force.
Yes.
However, I don't think, but I don't know what his contract is. I don't know when it's up, but he's had two losing seasons, or at least projected to have a losing season this year. Last season and this year, it's not looking good for Calhoun. And I honestly, when I look at Air Force, I'm not sure what the issue is. I don't know what goes on in and out in terms of the Air Force program. But when you look at their recruiting, and I analyze this stuff all the time, and it doesn't seem like they're having a downfall in recruiting, given all the things that are being introduced into college football, like NIL and all the things that Army and Navy faces. Maybe it's changes of time. I mean, Navy's changed their offense. They've gone through transition. I mean, we've changed our offense as well, slowly but surely over time. Air Force seems to be the one that's still stuck with the flex phone. So I don't know. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Well, no, I mean they're throwing the ball a lot, so they have changed their offense.
Yeah, but that, I mean, I guess I agree with you with that, but I apparently, from my insights or what I've heard, is that the quarterback that they had for the Army game, I forgot his name, Sarker. I can't pronounce his name. Yeah. He when he was recruited to Air Force, and I know that they probably say this to every recruit, but they really meant it for him. They said that if you decide to commit to Air Force, we're going to decide to pass the ball. I mean, he threw for 3,000 yards in a season in high school at the highest level in the state that he's from, and I don't know which state he's from, but that's just something that I read, and I think that because of him, they're actually passing the ball. But I think if it wasn't for my point, and I could be wrong with this, but if it wasn't for Slarker being on the team or committing to Air Force, I don't think that they would be passing the ball as much, but I could also be totally wrong.
Well, generally, generally coaches that are really good guys get a longer leeway. So having said that, Calhoun should have been fired 3 years ago.
Steve,
Yeah, yeah.
Steve,
So go ahead,
Okay.
Richard.
I happen to I agree. I think Calhoun's in trouble. I think Calhoun's could be on the hot seat.
Yeah, Calhoun. So in my opinion, I think the trouble for Calhoun started a few years ago when Calhoun announced that he had a coaching philosophy that he was not treating CIC games any differently than any other game on the schedule. And the shot across the bow to the Air Force faithful was that he was not putting emphasis on the CIC trophy. And unfortunately, well, depending on how you look at it, I actually have been enjoying it, as I'm sure Steve has too. Air Force's performance in CIC games has suffered dramatically in the past 8 years or so. And even the announcers of the game made the comment that Air Force at one time was dominating CIC trophy, and now it was being dominated more so by Army and to a lesser degree Navy. And unfortunately, his approach to CIC games has also bled over to how the team has been performing in other games. He's just not producing the type of product that Air Force got so used to in the Fisher DeBerry years. So they're still very arrogant and they're still very entitled acting about how their team performs. But the bottom line is that Air Force just hasn't been performing. My personal opinion is yes, I really believe that Calhoun is walking on very thin ice at Air Force Academy.
Well, you know what's interesting? I was just looking this up. So his contract, I don't know if this adds perspective, but his contract goes through 2029. I don't know when that was signed. But because if they were to fire him, it's the reality that they'd have to pay him out. But on the coacheshotseat.com, this is just stuff I just quickly pulled up. He's ranked 70th, and that's not really an indicator, as that's just relative to other coaches in college football. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of speculation. I think it'd be nice if there was a little more stability in college football. We talked last week with the superintendent of West Point about the enormous liabilities that schools are taking on when they're signing coaches to long-term contracts at $5 to $10 million a year, and letting coaches go owing $50 million. And that money has to come from somewhere. And it's hard to raise money like that at anywhere you go.
Well,
Okay,
it's a double.
Go ahead, Steve.
It's a double-edged sword, right? Because you sign contract extensions to make it difficult for a coach to get poached, right?
Yeah.
So so there's another side to that, right? If you're gonna sign me up and lock me in for 4 or 5 more years, which is purely on paper, because if a team wants you as a coach, they're going to come get you. They'll pay the buyout. But the concession to that is you've got to guarantee me this contract this way. So it's got to go both ways. Risk in business has to be, it has to be evened up across the dynamic, and nobody goes into a coaching new hire thinking that their coach is going to fail, right? So everybody's going into this optimistically, and they want to lock that coach up, especially if they have a couple of good or decent seasons where they're on the rise. They're going to want to lock it up. But then anybody's agent is going to say, okay, you want to do that, but here's my buyout. These are the terms of the buyout, and I need a contract extension. So it is, but again, the market will clear. Just like NIL, the market will figure it out. It's going to clear. Alabama's starting to see a little of that now, where if you're not winning, that money starts to dry up a little bit. That's why SEC is losing ground to the Big Ten. The Big Ten just has deeper pockets.
Yeah.
Penn State has deeper pockets. They have more alumni, and they have more alumni with money, and that's why the SEC, albeit they're deep, but they're not very broad. in terms of
Yeah.
their abilities right now. And you're going to see the Big Ten's going
Okay.
to start dominating.
Okay.
Also, really quick, I'll make it quick. I think what was interesting is that Steve, like last week, the superintendent mentioned that a lot of the donors, you could see it in the South or the SEC. If they don't see success, the people who are donating money, they might put their money elsewhere.
Sure.
And you could see that with LSU, just to name an example. But yeah, I agree.
And guys, it's not just the coaching salary; it's funding the NILs that makes a huge difference because it's 22 million to start. That has to be raised, and then additional money for individual NILs. Okay, well, let's
Yeah.
go into our lightning round and go through and make our fearless forecasts on how Army is going to do at home hosting Temple on Saturday at 12 noon start. Okay, let's start. With Chuck Donegan. Chuck, you'll be with me at the game, but you'll be on the sideline. What do you think is going to happen as far as the final score?
I will indeed, Ken. This one, I think, be something of a close victory, but I think by a greater margin than what we saw this past weekend. So I'm going to call it 28-14 Army.
28-14 from Chuck Donegan. Okay, let's go to Richard Miller. Richard, what do you think the score is going to be?
I'm gonna go 28-17 Army.
28-17. Okay, we have 2 votes for 28 points by the Black Knights. Okay, let's go to Curtis Harris. Curtis, what do you think the score is going to
Sorry,
be?
I was just looking up an analysis table. I think the score is going to be 31 to 10 Army.
Okay, a little bit broader margin of victory. Okay, and let's see, Steve Chaloult, you'll be up there with your extraordinary tailgate. But when the game starts and we play, what you see the final score being?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. I do. I think Army's going to be able to move the ball on. I'm going to give Army 35 points. Temple, I'm going to give 26. Going to have a nice weird number there. 35-26 Army.
Okay. Okay. And let's go to Sam Houston.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to making a trip over to Steve's tailgate this weekend too, since Stephanie and I will be up there at our Rockbound Highland home for the game. But I tend to agree with Steve, and Steve's score was almost spot on to what my score was. I really believe that Army's offense is going to be a lot more consistent on getting the ball in the end zone this weekend, and I think that as a result, it's going to be Army 38, Temple 24.
38-24. Okay, and let's hear from Stephanie. Stephanie, what do you think the score is going to be?
I think it's going to be similar to last year's, where last year was 42-14, but I think it's going to be more like 49-21.
49-21. Okay, so you're
That'd be great.
counting on a big offensive day for the Black Knights. Okay, well, I don't disagree. I think the Army offense is coming together. They're getting consistent. They're avoiding turnovers. They're running long drives. And Cale Helms is getting better with each game. I talked a little bit with Cody Worley about the play of Brady Small at center and how confident he is playing and the leadership that he is providing the offensive line. So I'm going to go, I don't want to do 31, but I'll go 32 for Army. I think Temple, will tend to struggle. I think the Army defense will have a good day. So I'll go for 33-13. Black Knight victory. Now, Stephanie did some work for us, and I thought as a closing item was be to hear the West Point Alma Mater performed at the Air Force Academy on their field, acapella. Stephanie, do you have that ready to go for us?
I am pulling it up right now.
Ken, was that because we couldn't get a flight to fly out the band because of the shutdown?
Because the bands are not allowed to be I guess it's where they hit the
Yeah.
limit on money they can spend during the government shutdown.
Yeah, the band was not at the Tulane game. The band was not at the UAB game either.
Huh.
Yeah, well, that's all since the government. I guess that's since when was the government shut down? October 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Air Force Academy did not have they had their drum and bugle corps, which I understand that's their cadet band. They didn't have their enlisted band, their equivalent to the West Point band, although they're not anywhere near as good as the West Point band. So that's just where the limits were, and I think they could only take a limited number of the rabble rousers out. Usually, it would take 10, and I think they took 5 or 6. So, Stephanie, do we have that available?
Hold on.
While Stephanie's pulling that up, I just wanted to say something very optimistic about the current team as looking ahead to next year, and we're talking about the maturity of the offense. I think that this year may represent one of the highest return rates for starting players on the offense under the Monken era from this season to next season. So I'm pretty damn excited about that.
All right.
Here we go.
Here we go, guys.
All right.
Okay, that was a exciting moment as West Point football team with the Air Force Academy teams standing behind them, sang their alma mater a cappella, and it was a memorable moment. And it seems like that there was a moment like that the last time we went out to the Air Force Academy, and it certainly is memorable as the rivalry has shifted. But we got to put that behind us. Temple on Saturday. So I just want to thank everybody for joining in the huddle. We've got Richard Miller down in Florida. Thank you, Richard. And very good. And we have Chuck Donegan will be with us at the stadium on the field Saturday. Thank you, Chuck.
Always a pleasure, Ken. Look forward to that.
Okay, we've got Curtis Harris joining us. Curtis, I imagine will you be at the game on Saturday?
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay, good. We will look for you. And Steve Chaloult will have his famous extravaganza going, and we'll look forward to seeing you, Steve. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Appreciate it, Stephanie. You're welcome at the tailgate, but there is no plus one.
Sorry, my kid's coming.
Yeah, he's talking about me.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
But he's got your Buffalo Trace.
Okay. We'll thank Sam Houston from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama. Thank you, Colonel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will have that Buffalo Trace to replace the bottle that I devastated last time I was at Steve Chalout's tailgate. So if I'm not welcome, I'll just have to send it via Stephanie.
Okay.
Beat Temple.
Very good. And Stephanie, thank you for all your hard work on production, getting us on the air, and getting that was a good film clip. I'm glad we were able to share that with the audience. So thank you. And yeah, this is Ken Kraetzer for Camp Vets Meeting. We cover cadets, midshipmen, the military and veterans proudly since 2008. We will see you at Mikey Stadium. It's a 12 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. Game can be watched on the CBS Sports Network. But the best place is to be there, and it's going to be a sellout, and it's going to be an exciting day of college football. So we'll see you. Thank you, everybody, for our team, and thank you for watching. And
Go
see you on
Army.
Saturday.
Beat
Go
Temple.
Army.
Beat Temple.
Beat
Beat
All right.
Temple.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.